It began in the winter of hunger. The snow never stopped, and the animals vanished. One hunter, desperate to save himself, felt a darkness growing in his belly. The cold wasn't just outside, it was crawling into his soul. Driven by a hunger that defied nature, the hunter broke the ultimate law of the Anishinaabe. He looked upon his own kind not as family, but as prey. As he took that first forbidden bite, a shiver of cursed energy transformed his spirit. He had invited the spirit of the great hunger in, and once the door was opened, his humanity died in the frost. The transformation was a nightmare. As the spirit of the Windigo took hold, his skin turned the color of a corpse and stretched tight over his growing bones. His teeth sharpened into jagged needles, and his eyes pushed back into his skull, replaced by two glowing embers of hatred. He felt his heart turn to solid ice, shattering his mercy and leaving only a freezing void. He grew and grew until he was a twisted giant, a walking skeleton of the deep woods. The creature was no longer the man who entered the woods. It had become a towering titan of bone and frost, standing 30 feet tall. Everywhere it stepped, the ground cracked with ice, and a supernatural blizzard followed in its wake. When it reached the village of the Anishinaabe, the air turned so cold that the warriors' spears shattered like glass. This wasn't just a predator hunting for food. It was a living curse trying to swallow the world in a great silence. The more it ate, the more it grew, and the more it grew, the hungrier it became. The village was helpless against a monster that was made of the very winter that was killing them. Just as the village was about to be lost to the frost, a thunderous roar echoed from the deep timber. Out of the shadows stepped Sabi, the great giant, known to the Anishinaabe as the spirit of honesty. Sabi saw the imbalance. He saw a creature that had taken too much and given nothing back. Though the Windigo was taller, Sabi was thick with muscle and the warmth of the earth. He lunged forward, his massive hands gripping the skeletal limbs of the ice beast. It was a clash of titans, the warm, brown fur of the forest against the razor-sharp bones of the winter. Sabi fought not to kill, but to hold the monster back, buying time for the heavens to answer the village's cry. As Sabi struggled to hold the beast, the sky itself began to scream. The clouds didn't bring more snow, they brought fire and thunder. From the heart of the storm, the thunderbird descended. Known as the opposite of the cold, its wings spanned the width of the valley, and its feathers were forged from pure sunlight. The thunderbird saw the Windigo's frozen heart, a violation of the natural law. It let out a cry that shattered the ice on the trees, circling above like a hawk made of lightning. The ground war had met the sky war, and the Windigo, for the first time, felt something it had never known, the fear of being hunted. The Windigo lunged for Sabi one last time, but the thunderbird was faster. It dived from the clouds like a falling star, its talons glowing with the heat of 1,000 summer suns, dot dot with a deafening crack of thunder. A bolt of pure lightning dot struck the beast directly in its chest. The impact didn't just dot wound the monster, it targeted the source of the evil. The Wendigo's heart, a jagged shard of cursed ice, began to shatter. The fire of the sky collided with the frost of the earth, sending a shock wave through the forest that turned the snow to steam. The great hunger had finally met a power it could not consume. As the light faded, the towering skeleton was gone. All that remained was a puddle of meltwater, and the man who had started it all now finally at peace in the earth. The unnatural blizzard vanished as quickly as it had come, replaced by a soft, natural snowfall. Sabi stood tall, his breath misting in the air, a silent guardian of the trees. High above, the thunderbird circled once more before vanishing into the clouds. The balance between the earth and the sky had been restored. The Anishinaabe emerged from their dwellings, seeing the sun break through the clouds for the first time in moons. They were safe, but they knew the forest would never forget the price of the hunger. The war was over, but the elders knew that words have power. To speak the creature's true name was to risk calling it back from the void. In the sacred tongue of the Anishinaabe, he was known as Jetchi Manidu Mafo Naiba, the one who eats alone. They carved the story into the great stones and hid the name in the shadows of the oldest trees. They taught the children to respect the forest and to never let greed turn their hearts to ice. For generations, the true name was whispered only in warnings, a secret protected by the land itself. The monster was gone, but the lesson was etched into the soul of the people. To survive the winter, we must care for one another. Time passed, and the world changed. When the first white Americans and settlers arrived in the Great Lakes, they heard the terrifying whispers of the one who eats alone. But they did not speak the language of the Anishinaabe. In the struggle to translate the terror, the original name was lost to history, replaced by the word we know today, the Windigo. They turned the spirit into a ghost story for the campfire, but the warning remains the same. Whether you call it by its ancient name or its modern one, the legend is a reminder that the greatest monsters aren't always hiding in the woods. Sometimes they are born within a cold and greedy heart. The story lives on, as long as the winter wind blows.